This is the iPhone 16 Plus. It now has similar features from last year's Pro model and is better than the previous iPhone 15 Plus, like having the action button, a better 3nm chipset, a bigger battery, new audio mix modes, and the new camera control is here too, similar to the 16 Pro models. But there's one feature that nobody is talking about that this phone has, which is the fact that it plays Genshin Impact at 120 FPS on a phone that supposedly has only a 60Hz screen. So does this mean cheap iPhone equals best iPhone? Well, I'll tell you after using this phone every day for 2 weeks. And I'll answer your question of whether this camera control is great to use daily or not, and if it's worth it to get this phone. Now, from a hardware's perspective, I've never been a huge fan of bright and saturated colors because I've always loved boring white. Yup. Don't judge me. But this time around, this new striking options compared to last year's pastel colors really grew on me. Now, my two top favorites are the Ultramarine and this teal, aka the Dave 2D color. And for the first time, I've never used a phone case when I use this phone every single day. Firstly, because of how the phone feels on my hands. The slightly curved edges at the sides were really nice. And it feels even better and very close to Nothing Phone's pillow glass back. And because the phone did not attract any fingerprints at all, that was something that I really appreciated more. Now, secondly, I also appreciated the color to the point that I would simply just take out the phone in between my work just to see and feel how gorgeous the teal finish is. And if you're someone who likes to tell the whole world that you're using a new iPhone, well, the good news is that people have noticed that I was using the new iPhone 16 compared to when I was using the iPhone 16 Pro Max desert color just before I recorded this video. However, if there's one thing that I really have to nitpick about is the fact that if you do not use the case, if you type the phone on a surface or on a table, good luck because the phone wobbles a lot, making it almost impossible to type on due to the camera bump's location and the overall design. So last year's action button was exclusive to the iPhone 15 Pro series. Right now, it is brought down to the regular non-Pro variants. Now, this was somewhat of a mixed reaction for some people who claim that the action button was useless, but for me, I remapped it to Open Todoist. And of course, right now you can remap to anything else you want, especially using the Shortcuts app. So is this action button really a useless button? Well, I have been using the iPhone 15 Pro last year and I would feel that it is totally not useless. Because if you're more mindful of the frequently used tasks or frequently used apps on the phone, I guarantee that you'll be using the action button before you know it. Next is the camera control. Now what's interesting is that Apple has decided to bring this over to the non-Pro version this year instead of skipping a generation like they did for the action button. Now, speaking of buttons, I know that someone is going to be typing down there and saying that the fact that, this camera control is a button, but guess what? I am not going to say it's a button in this video, so bite me. Now, this camera control also had many complaints about the usability and the physical reach, and of course how it takes time to get used to. With that, first let me talk about the use cases that I use the phone daily. Now, I use this press and hold feature when I record vertical videos like this because I love the idea of having a physical control to start and stop recording. And while it does not work natively on the Instagram app, but I'm someone who takes videos first and then I upload it on Instagram or any other platforms. And usually I would just edit the video before posting it anyway, so that feature of not having it on the Instagram app, it's totally fine by me. And another frequent time that I use the camera control a lot is when I'm taking photos up high like this. Like you go on top and take a photo. So instead of resting the phone on my fingers, I just use my thumb to touch the shutter where I can just grip the phone better using my thumb on the camera control. But Adam, this is for vertical video. How about landscape? Well, to be honest, if I'm on a landscape orientation for video, I don't use the camera control at all. But I use it more for photos, mainly to quickly switch lenses using my index finger. So does this take time to get used to? Well, of course it does, because for me, it took me about a day or two max where I was good to go. And what's even better is the fact that there is a dedicated menu for the camera control under the camera settings where you can toggle the clean preview. So what is clean preview is that if you use the camera control, the camera app will give you a clean feed without showing the lenses options, for example, where I left it at toggle off for me to still be able to see the options in the camera app. Then there's also the option to launch the camera with double click over there in the settings too, in case you're one of those people who accidentally presses this button frequently. And you can even open other apps besides the camera, like the code scanner, opening the Instagram camera app and share a photo and video immediately, open the magnifier or just do nothing. Now, as of the recording of this video, there's other apps like the Hairlight camera app and Lookup, which you can use the camera control to launch that too. So hopefully more app developers will allow this. Now, speaking of getting used to the camera control, you can also adjust the sensitivity on the presses too under the accessibility settings, so you can adjust it over there. So all in all, I would say that this camera control was indeed very useful for me. About 60% of the time, could I live without it? Yes, I could, but it is indeed a great addition. And yes, as predicted, other smartphone companies has decided to follow the similar haptic control feature like Realme and Nubia. And before anyone starts saying, oh, the Sony Xperia version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 had the shutter button too, and they had it first. Well, yes, they did it first, but the experience is totally different, especially with the on-screen control. And this is also like saying, oh, the Siemens S10 had a color screen first. Now, speaking of being first, there's one feature that I never thought it would be super beneficial when I use it for the first time and totally loved it, which I'll talk about that soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, as for the camera samples, you can tweak the photo to the different photographic styles and the tones based on your liking, but for the sake of this review, I left everything at default or standard with tone of 0. As usual, I've used the cameras extensively since the ultra-wide camera was the only minor change to accommodate the spatial video, which you can expect the same great results for the ultra-wide lenses with great dynamic range with no distortion at the edges during the day. As for the main lens, it also was really great as seen in these photos where you can go up to 10 times of the maximum zoom digitally. But the image quality looked the best at 5 times zoom, where the photos still look nice even without a dedicated telephoto lens. So I wouldn't use the 10 times zoom image unless you have lots of light. Then portrait mode was flawless for humans, my cat Luna, and objects as well, where there is a 2 times mode option over here as well. Then macro mode is still one of the best macro mode photos on a smartphone without typically having a dedicated macro lens. As seen in these photos, the quality was really great. Then as for selfie photos, the natural look for the skin tones is very superior to any other smartphones they have tested this year. The dynamic range was also one of the best in the industry. Then the nighttime photos was still great, and while at night the lens flare is still present before taking a shot as seen in this screen recording. But the good news is that the image processing removes it, so you won't get that anymore. So other than that, the ultra-wide lens did have a little of a distorted edges, but only if you zoom in close. And the main lenses also did look great with a perfect balance of the highlights and shadows, even up to 2 times zoom. But here's where I wouldn't recommend using the 5 times zoom onwards in this particular nighttime or low light situation. Then as for selfie photos at night, it also looked really nice, especially in the portrait selfie mode. And speaking of being the best, the video quality on the iPhone 16 was also amazing. The video quality for the ultra-wide lens was really good, and of course the main lenses did an amazing job too. And here's also when the 2 times video quality looked amazing even without a telephoto lens as mentioned earlier. Then the 5 times video quality was decent, where you can only go up to a maximum zoom of 6 times on video mode. Now, image stabilization wise, as expected, the ultra-wide video and the main video footage looked really good too, but I was surprised at how stable the video was on 2 times and even up to 6 times zoom if you're not looking from a quality perspective. Now, just like the photos, the video quality for the front camera for video is one of the best in the smartphone industry as well, with superb image stabilization, of course. At night, the ultra-wide lenses had great quality as expected, so was the main lenses too. However, keep in mind, as mentioned earlier, that the lens flare that you see within the viewfinder will only disappear after taking a video too. Then image stabilization at night was equally as good as the video during the day, as seen over here. Then the front video quality was great at night, as seen in this video footage, and so was the image stabilization too. And then there's one feature that Apple introduced, which is the audio mix feature, which is very unique to the iPhone, which no other smartphones out right now can beat. Now, there are 3 modes in total. First is the in-frame mode, where the audio focuses for people within the frame in the viewfinder, even if someone who's holding the camera is talking behind. And here's a sound test for that. Okay, so this is an in-frame mode test, where if you're in a situation like you're here in a mall You can hear there's a lot of background noise, but right now I'm gonna turn it on for you all to hear, and you can hear it how it sounds like when it's turned on, and also for turning it off. And also the person behind the camera will also be talking while I'm actually saying something, so they can talk right now. Hey, what's up? Adam Lobo here from Adam Lobo TV, and for those of you who are not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe to Adam Lobo TV if you guys haven't done so. Then there's the studio mode, which converts the audio into more like a studio-like sound, making the sound like it was very close to the microphone, and here is a sound test for that. Alright, so once again I'm in a mall, so I'm going to turn on the studio mode, which means that if you are doing a video recording in a mall, for example, when you turn on the studio mode, it sounds like this. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2, test 1, 2. But if you turn it off, it sounds like this. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Then finally, there's the cinematic mode that combines all of the voices all around when you're taking a shot to in front of the screen, and here is a sound test. Okay, so if you're doing a vlogging situation outdoor, you want to hear your surrounding, this is how it sounds with the cinematic mode turned on the audio recording, and this is how it sounds when it's turned off. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Now, if you guys are enjoying this video so far, especially with the audio and the video samples, a thumbs up to this video would be awesome. And a subscription, if you guys haven't done so, would be extra lovely too. Thank you very much in advance. So battery life on the phone was about the same as last year's model, where I was averaging about 8 hours plus of screen on time, which was the best battery life on any iPhones out right now. Now the wired charging is about the same at about 26 to 27 watts. Then the wireless charging speed has increased to 25 watts instead of 15 watts last year, but keep in mind that you'll need to use the Qi 2 certified chargers, where besides the official Apple ones, I would recommend the Qi 2 chargers from Belkin. So yes, if you want a very good battery life iPhone, the Plus is the way to go. But of course with a 60Hz screen, which brings me to the next topic, which is the display. So if you probably know by now that the iPhone 16 and this 16 Plus is still using a 60Hz screen. Let's hope and pray for a higher refresh rate next year. But how is it using it daily then? Well, if you're switching from a Pro model or any phone which has an adaptive 120Hz display, you will definitely notice the difference. But if you talk to anyone who uses a baseline iPhone, they just don't care. But if you're coming from a 90Hz Android smartphone, the transition to this 60Hz screen might feel less drastic. It's like stepping down almost half a stair instead of a whole flight of stairs. Now this is partly due to the phone's chip and more on the chipset soon, and the software's overall smooth performance, so whether or not you're doing daily tasks or gaming, you will still have a very good experience. And speaking of gaming, let's dive into the phone's shocking overall performance of gaming. So this year saw an upgrade to the non-Pro's iPhone's chip and the overall performance, where it comes with a new A15 Bionic chipset, which is a super fast 3nm chip with 8GB of RAM as well. Now there is a new game mode when you load the game, which you cannot turn it on or off manually, so keep that in mind, where it will automatically turn it on when you load a game. So as mentioned earlier in this video, a part of my usual gaming test routine, I played Genshin Impact on the phone, and not only it performs exceptionally well at high graphics with motion blur at high instead of the low settings on last year's iPhone 15 Plus, but this time around I was shocked that 120 FPS was available. And yes, it did feel like I was gaming on a 120Hz screen, something that was only available on the iPad when I was reviewing that. So yes, this was very shocking and very good news indeed. And this bigger screen on this Plus variant was definitely a huge plus, pun intended, making this a very good phone for gaming, as how this big screen was on the Pro Max variant too, which I'll be reviewing next, so stay tuned for that. Then the gaming performance on COD Mobile was also amazing, with the max graphics settings and frame rate set to max as well. So as of the recording of this video, the public version of iOS is version 18.0.1, which means that Apple Intelligence is still not available yet. So I'll do a dedicated video review on that when it's out. Now I also did some best tips and tricks video for iOS 18 during my unboxing video, so if you haven't, do check it out. But all in all, I'm going to go through the ones that I feel is the best features that I really really like and was useful when I use this phone daily. Now the most obvious one would be the home screen changes. Yes, using the bluish teal tint on every app was really nice. To streamline the look and theme for my whole entire phone setup, the option of removing the icon text label was nice too, but I do wish that I can do that while not making the icon as big as it is. And the fact that we can finally place the icons wherever we want. It means that I could arrange it to where I could reach at the bottom of the screen. And then the new control center customization was also a great use case for me. And since I've been using the double tap in the accessibility settings to get my control center on, not only it made it easier to access that, but also the new option made it even easier for me to access my frequently used features like changing my focus mode, the Apple TV remote, and turning on the screen recording and more. Then the new calculator app like the Scientific Calculator with all the conversion options was such an underrated app that I felt that it was more useful than I thought it would be, and so was the Passwords app. Then the Photos app did also get some getting used to, but eventually I got used to it very quickly, especially since you can actually customize and order it accordingly as well. However, my favorite feature to me is a feature which I feel like it's not getting enough credit, and that is the reduce motion. Because I'm the kind of person who cannot use a phone when I'm on a bus or even as a passenger in a car, because I do get motion sickness super quickly, and by turning on the reduce motion on the accessibility settings made motion sickness a thing of the past, where it creates some little moving dots when the vehicle was moving, making it my favorite iOS 18 features as of the recording of this video. Now, if you want a written recap of this whole video, there is one at our website at www.adamlovo.tv. Links to that will be down below. So, in conclusion, is the iPhone 16 Plus a phone to get, and is it worth upgrading to? Well, if you're coming from a much older iPhone like the iPhone 14 or older, then I would say that this is a solid upgrade. But if you're already on an iPhone 15 and feel it is time to jump to a 120Hz refresh rate screen, then it does come down to how much that you value those new features mentioned in this video.